Delighted to be able to introduce and invite to the stage Jeremy Hughes CBE. He's the CEO of the Alzheimer's Society, and he's going to be talking about harnessing developments in technology to benefit people with dementia.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Paul, for that introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I hope what I'm going to do is something that's a logical continuation from Dr. Bengoa's presentation just before the coffee break. I want to present to you a sort of case study, if you like, of what we're doing from Alzheimer's Society with the technology and dementia agenda. And the interesting thing here is two scene setters before I get into it. One is, if I go 1, 2, 3, that draws your attention to the fact that every 3 seconds somebody in the world develops dementia. So it is, as Professor Peter Piot said, who was the man who discovered Ebola and also ran the UN HIV/AIDS program, so knows a thing or two about diseases. Professor Piot said, this is the global health time bomb. So we do know that there's an imperative of tackling dementia, and often it is the barrier to the proper treatment of other diseases that people have alongside their dementia. But the second thing that's important is to recognise that the UK is in a leadership position on this work around technology and dementia. Indeed, we've been in a leadership position on dementia overall, following the initiative of David Cameron in 2012 to hold a G8 summit on dementia, which really put it on the global stage and has led to a WHO action plan 2025. The slight frustration we have, and I will declare that I'm going to be slightly political by this, the slight frustration we have is that from the leadership we saw in 2012, things have slowed down a bit. We have a meeting tomorrow of the Dementia Programme Board, which is meant to be agreeing the UK's 2025 programme, or at least the England 2025 programme with the Minister. But I've just seen the papers for the meeting tomorrow, and what we're getting is a verbal update, which doesn't sound quite as encouraging as a draft strategy. So I'm hoping that the UK will continue to demonstrate its leadership, both in England, but also in Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland, because we have been driving this. But on the dementia technology front, what I want to do in the next few minutes is just give you some indications of how we're making that work in the way we drive things from Alzheimer's Society. The context are the Dementia Statements. These are 5 statements that are, in terms of citizen-powered, these are statements written by people living with dementia. They were produced over the last 2 years from an intensive programme involving over 500 people to write what they wanted. And the important first thing is the first 5 words of all the 5 statements is we have the right to. So this isn't a dependency culture. This isn't saying they're beholden to anybody else. They're saying we have a right, like any other citizen, to be supported to live the way we want to live. And this is the one I've picked out for today because it's particularly relevant to today's conference. We have the right to continue with day-to-day and family life without discrimination or unfair cost, to be accepted and included in our communities, and not to live in isolation or loneliness. Now, both in the UK and globally, I believe that means harnessing technology in a way we never have done before. At the Alzheimer's International Conference in Singapore next March, showing the UK leadership, we're hosting a symposium as part of that conference on dementia and technology. And we're particularly doing it in association with people around the world, including the Chinese. And the interesting thing from China is that they now realise, even with the speed at which they can make things happen, they can't build enough physical care homes to cope with the number of people who will be living with dementia in China over the next 30 years. They have the double whammy, I suppose, of the one-child policy, which means there are not enough family caregivers to support the elderly relatives, and they have rural-urban migration, which means people, even where they are there, aren't in the right place. And they're now recognising that technology has to be the driving force to enable people to live well in their own homes. And that means combining the use of technology with an empowered and developed workforce, building on the fantastic example from Mike from Home Instead of somebody who is passionate about what they do and enables people to live well. But the way technology can support that is what I want to illustrate this morning. The draft technology proposals, this is what we're presenting to the government in the strategy that isn't coming out tomorrow, but hopefully will be coming out soon. And I just wanted to take you through the 4 headings, just to give you the context. Firstly, to lead the world by ensuring people affected by dementia are empowered to live well for longer using technology-enabled solutions to support self-care. Now, I think the important words there are those last few words, technology-enabled solutions to support self-care. The important message I want to share with you is that it's not about technology replacing human contact. We've got a partnership with Japan, and Japan, I think culturally, are a bit more attuned to saying you can have AI and robotics that replaces the person-centered care delivered by a human being. I don't think that works here. All the evidence we have from people with dementia is that they don't want a very polite robot that when they ask the same question for the 20th time in 20 minutes, politely answers as if nothing's happening. We know that for people with dementia to be treated as full valued citizens, human emotion plays a part. Getting annoyed with somebody, getting frustrated, that's all part of everyday life. So it's enabling through technology to let people support themselves as well as possible. The second point is to drive that, we need to create an environment which allows high quality and impactful dementia technology research and innovation to take place. I'm delighted to say that we're in the forefront of that because we've got a Dementia Research Institute. The government, we persuaded to put £190 million of government money into it. We're putting 50 million in from Alzheimer's Society. And although a lot of that money is for biomedical research, we've ring-fenced 20 million of that for care technology research. And we've just appointed earlier this year Professor Dave Sharp at Imperial College to lead that part of the Dementia Research Institute. And the exciting thing for me was that he didn't bring the usual suspects to the table. He didn't bring the people who we already know are working on dementia research. He brought to the table people who were coming out of the engineering and technology faculties at Imperial College, people who'd never done anything on health before. And they saw the opportunity, and they see the opportunity to do something to transform the lives of people using their technical abilities, their engineering abilities to make the tools to enable people to live, as I said, independently with self-care possible. And the third thing is that we need to make sure people know how to use it. It goes back to Mike and the empowered citizen as a worker in social care, that all health and social care professionals are trained and educated to enable the use of technology-enabled care. Now, unlike Home Instead, which are a beacon of excellence in a rather murky field, we know from research we did at Alzheimer's Society that 2 out of every 5 people working in home care for people with dementia don't have inadequate dementia training, they have none. None at all. They may have been trained in lifting and handling and some of the basic skills that you need to have to be registered as a home care worker, but they have no dementia training, let alone training on how to use technology. So that third strand of improving and empowering the workforce across health and social care to know how to use technology is a fundamental part of it. So to demonstrate what we've already been doing, I wanted to give you a couple of examples from Alzheimer's Society's work, just to sort of spark your imagination about the kind of thing we can do. The first is something called How Do I? This is a technology company that we've funded to make a difference to people in the way that they support their loved one in living independently with dementia for as long as possible. And it's a mobile video support tool where people can access, often driven by a prompt, for example, on their phone, to do everyday tasks, to understand how to do the things that they may have forgotten how to do. Now, many of you in this room have probably become dementia friends, and we've now got 3 million people across the country who have become dementia friends. It's a very base level awareness program. About 500 people a day are becoming dementia friends. And any of you who've done that will know that there's a role play exercise. And one of the role play exercises is how do you make a cup of tea? And the task is to ask the people in the group that you're doing the session with, how many stages are involved in making a cup of tea? And typically, people come up with around 10 to 20. Well, I did it for the cabinet when Theresa May was Prime Minister, and she actually did quite well. She got 19. Some of the cabinet didn't do very well, but I realised they probably had somebody who made tea for them and didn't actually make it at all, so it's probably unfair to ask them. Most people come up with up to about 20 stages. We know from the research we've done that for people with dementia, it's about 40 stages that involved in making a cup of tea. And it starts with knowing you're thirsty. Knowing that you're thirsty, because often people with dementia forget they're thirsty or hungry, and typically even when they're in hospital, a tray of food gets put in front of them and half an hour later gets taken away again uneaten, and nobody stops to ask, is this person got dementia? Is it that they are hungry but they've forgotten to eat? So this app is very simple. It's a video-based program which enables you from a prompt which will come up on your phone or can be on the touch screen of your tablet. It can have, for example, how can I make a cup of tea? How can I get dressed? And it's customized to the individual to enable them to go through the stages linked to the environment in their own home, so it can signpost them to the right place to get the support they need. And Rachel is somebody I spoke to whose partner David has dementia, and I'll just read out what she said. She said, "When we started working with How Do I, we experimented with a video diary. We recorded a 360-degree view of a location that we had been in and snippets of what we'd been doing there. Video can capture so much more detail than a photograph can. David always enjoys watching himself back on the videos when we get home, and they help jog his memory." So in that case, in Rachel's case and David's case, not only are they using the How Do I to help them do everyday tasks, to help David do everyday tasks around the home, but we're building in stories of places he's been to. You can put on it pictures from family history that can be used as prompts to have conversations. So it's a very simple adaptation of a video-based communication tool customized to the individual own home. And what's important taking this forward, and this is a really important message I think for today's conference, is that technology is evolving and people's opportunity to use it is evolving. And if you're going to do true partnership-based development of technology, it's an ongoing process. So from Alzheimer's Society, our commitment to the company who've developed How Do I is not a one-off, we'll give you a bit of money to develop this and see if you can market it. It's an ongoing process of involving people with dementia all the way through, and it's a 3-year program of saying we've got focus groups, we've got discussions up and down the country to find out how do you adapt and develop this in a customer-centric way, in a citizen-powered way, and that's where I think technology can make a big difference. It all forms part of our innovation hub. This is a program we've been developing over the last few years, and we have sprint programs where we take something fast forward into application. And the How Do I is one example of that. We've just launched last week the latest program, so you can go online and look up Alzheimer's Society Innovation Hub, and there's £100,000 on the table for anyone who wants to come to us with an idea and partner with us to take a concept of technology-empowered care and support and to turn it into reality, to work with us, to partner through our network of people living with dementia across the country and their family caregivers, to turn a concept into reality. So £100,000 is now up for grabs in the latest phase of that Innovation Hub programme. So I hope that I've demonstrated through that first example of How Do I, one of the ways we're working. And I just wanted to end this brief presentation with a piece from one of the people with dementia who's using something called My Carer, which is a very simple app that we've developed using Alexa. And I think it will show you another case study of how we're going from theory to practice in a continual improvement programme.
Yes, in the autumn, we went to the local hospital in Southampton and met the neurologist, and he told us with a very sad voice that I did have dementia. I've children, one in New Zealand, one who lives in Ukraine. I still try and live independently as much as possible. Taking my medication is a great problem. I have all kinds of systems set up in the past with alarms and reminders.
The My Carer skill can be programmed by a carer or person living with early stages dementia, and through the app a person can customise a whole routine with instructions step by step. At the time scheduled, Alexa sends a voice reminder and the interactive guidance starts.
Hi Jennifer, it's time for your medication. To start, say Alexa, open My Carer.
Alexa, open My Carer.
Do you know where to find your medication?
No.
Your medication is on the dining room table.
And if a task is incomplete for more than 30 minutes, then the carer will receive a notification on their mobile to let them know to go back and to do that task.
Did you take your medication?
Yes.
Well done.
Cooking is very difficult for me, so one needs to be reminded to turn off things as well as to turn on things.
Did you turn off the oven?
Yes.
Remembering names can be difficult. Doesn't mean to say we don't love the people.
Jennifer, today is Claire's birthday.
Who's that?
Claire is your sister-in-law. Shall I set up a call with her?
for Alzheimer's Society can really help us understand a person's routine and patterns of behaviour throughout the day and understand that disease progression.
So I hope that's given you an example.
We live as well with it as
Going on.
possible. And I believe we can with dementia. And that's why I'm so grateful for all these wonderful apps that help us do that.
Sorry, I missed the last bit. So I hope that's given you an example of the kind of thing we're doing. Now, before you jump in and ask me, this is about continual improvement. So what we're now doing, taking that example with Jennifer and Alexa, is customizing it so it's not an American woman talking to her, but it's somebody she recognizes. It could be the voice of her son, her daughter, her partner. So it's not some alien person who called Alexa. So it's taking it forward in a customer-centric way in that continual evolution program. So what we want to do with you today is say Alzheimer's Society wants to partner with the technology industry. We want to make sure that we continue the fantastic partnership we've had with people like Tunstall and others who are developing customized speciality support for people to live in their own homes or to live well in care homes. But we also want to reach out to the wider technology community, as seen in the two examples I've just given, where we're saying existing technology that's already being used for other purposes with relatively small adaptation and with true partnership with people living with dementia and their carers can bring a new way of living to enable as many people as possible to live a good life with dementia while struggling with a degenerative condition that inevitably gets harder as you go through your dementia life. Thank you for your attention.